and welcome to this live training on Adobe Premiere Pro. You are here because you want to learn to edit videos in this really powerful video editing program that might be a little bit overwhelming when you first open it up. Maybe you launched Premiere and you didn't know how to get started, or maybe you've started a project and you don't know how to finish it. If either one of those sound like you, then welcome, my friend. You are in the right place because we are going to be covering all the things today. So we are going to be going through the entire editing process from start to finish in Premiere Pro. So I'm going to be showing you how to set up your project. I'm going to show you how to navigate the interface and where everything is. Then we're going to be talking about editing footage, but not just editing, but how to edit efficiently because I know you got a life to live. All right, then we're going to do color and audio adjustments. So I want you looking good. I want you sounding good. And then we're going to add some titles and graphics to really polish up our video and make it look fancy. And then, of course, finally, oh, my phone's going off. I hope nobody's saying there's a problem with the stream. I'm just going to check. Nope. Okay, good deal. Of course, we're going to be going over how to export your video for online and then share it with the world and blow up the internet with your brilliance and make the impact on the world that you want to through the stories that you're telling. Okay, so as we're going through this project, or as I'm going through this webinar, we're going to be getting hands-on and creating a project from scratch. So if you want to follow along, you can check the link in the description and download all of the project files that I'm using for this webinar. And then let me just tell you a little bit about the project we're making. So we're making an intro for a video where I'm giving tips on how to keep your camera gear organized and control the chaos so that you can find what you need when you need it. All right. So I don't want you to stress about having to take notes and pay attention during the webinar. And so I just want to let you know that there's a recap where I go over every step that I've taken in this webinar so that you can just sit back, digest, and then brush up on things later if you want to. And then finally, I just want to tell you, if you have any questions about anything I'm doing during the webinar, please feel free to speak up in the chat box, blow that up. I don't want you to feel like you're interrupting me. I'll be checking in on that throughout the webinar. And then also, everybody say hey to Caroline from the Adobe team. She is in there, and so she'll be able to help you get answers to your questions about Premiere or any of the other Adobe apps that you might have. But before we jump in, I just want to introduce myself so you know who the heck I am. Hi, my name is Betsy. You can call me Mary. I am a filmmaker, a designer, and a teacher. And my husband, well, not there yet. So you might hear a little bit of twang in this webinar because I'm originally from South Carolina, but now I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. And my husband and I have a couple production companies. So we make marketing and then recruitment videos for companies. And then we also have a wedding video business. So when I tell you I spend a lot of time editing videos, okay, I am keeping it real. Like Premiere Pro and I are like this. And so I'm really excited to show you around this program because there's so much you can do with it. Okay, enough about me. Let's jump into this webinar. And I just want to check, can everybody hear me and see me okay? If you're having any trouble, please let me know. Okay, so let's switch to the screen and get into things. Okay, so before we ever start our project in Premiere, the first step we're going to take is we're going to have all of our files for our project in one folder. And I know you're probably like, I know you want me to keep my files organized, I get it, blah, 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 let's get into it. But for Premiere, this is really important because Premiere needs to know where your files are to make your project work. And so you don't want to be saving your files in all these random folders all over your desktop or all over your computer because you don't want to accidentally delete something and break your project. Also, ideally, we don't want to be renaming or moving anything in this project folder because if we do, then we might need to remind Premiere, hey, this is the change we made. A lot of times Premiere is smart enough to automatically find your file, which I love, but the point is, ain't nobody got time to update Premiere about change. It's so much easier if you just organize all your files right from the jump. Okay, so we've got all our files here, and again, you can download those in the link in the description. But anyway, we're doing great already. So now we're going to launch Premiere down here. And when you do that, you will get a welcome screen like this. And look at Premiere. It is being so friendly and sweet saying, welcome, Mary. And so everybody should see something like that on your screen and say, hey, Premiere, how is it going? All right, so we're going to go up here to the top left, and we're going to click this new project button. Okay, when we do that, we're going to get a settings window. And oh my goodness, look at all the options here. Don't worry, we're going to make it real simple. So I'm going to zoom in here. And then we're going to name our project. So let's call this Gear Organization Tips. Okay, now we're going to tell Premiere where to save it. And of course, y'all know where we are saving this. We are saving it in our dedicated project folder because we are going to be super organized here. Okay, so now we are done with this general tab here. We're going to hop on over to this scratch disk tab, and we have all these things: captured video, captured audio, video previews, audio previews, project autosave. Okay, what is this? So these are all folders that Premiere is going to create for your project, and it's going to stuff some files on there to make your project work. You don't have to worry about this. Premiere is going to make these for you. It's going to do all of the heavy lifting in the background. All Premiere wants to know right now is, where do you want me to save these files? And of course, we want them saved in the same folder as our project, because we're keeping everything in the same place and organized. And so you're just going to go through all of these here and set them to the same as project. Okay, cool. Now we're going to get into the interface, and let me show you around. Okay, let me do a little bit of arranging here, and you'll see that what I'm doing here is I'm moving around these boxes. And of course, we can customize in Premiere, which is beautiful, because if you're a control freak like I am, then you love this. Okay, so I am clicking around. You see I've got these different boxes, right? Let me get in my script where I want to be so I don't ramble too much. Okay, so here, these boxes in Premiere are called panels. Each panel has a different job, okay? So like down here, we've got a tools panel. Over here, we've got a timeline panel. And obviously, we're going to be getting into those more, okay? So this is not all the panels in Premiere. There are a lot more, but we don't want to have all the panels up all at once, because that would be a hot mess. We only want the panels up that we need when we need them. And because of that, up here at the top, we've got different workspaces, okay, where Premiere is going to pull up exactly what panels we would need for different stages of our edit. So this makes things really convenient, okay? We can also add custom workspaces. We can do so many things. But for right now, we're about to assemble our video. And so we're going to click the assembly workspace over here. Now, your assembly workspace might look different than mine, because again, you will have noticed that we can rearrange things here, and we can drag panels wherever we want and resize, right? And if there's a panel up that you don't want, then you can go up here to this hamburger menu in the panel and then go to close panel. If there's a panel that you want to see that you don't see, then you can go up to this window menu, and then, oh my goodness, y'all can see all of these panels, and we're going to get into a lot of these in a second. But for now, we are going to start with this panel over here, which is called the project panel. This is like the refrigerator in our little Premiere Pro kitchen here, okay? So we're going to store all the raw ingredients that we're going to make our project from, okay? Right now, our project panel is empty. She's very sad about that, so we need to get some media in her, right? And so to do that, we are going to right-click and then go to Import, or if you're like I am, we're just going to do a little drag and drop situation. And let me just make sure I'm still alive. Yes, everything. Okay, cool. So we're going to do a little drag and drop situation. And you'll notice here in our project folder, Premiere's already created our project file. It's doing so much stuff behind the scenes. But if you're following along, then make sure you grab this footage folder and then just drop it over here. Okay, so now that we've got this folder in Premiere, you will notice if I zoom in here and I hover over it, that Premiere is not calling it a footage folder, it's calling it a footage bin, okay? And that's because in Premiere, well, back in the day when they had physical film, like they weren't putting it in folders, okay? They were putting it in these big giant bins, and so that carried over to this editing program. And so basically a bin is just a folder that you're putting your video files in and other assets for your project, right? So if you want to create a new bin in Premiere, you can right-click here and go to New Bin, or you can go down to this little folder icon at the bottom left that says New Bin, okay? So again, the project panel is like the fridge. So this is where we're putting our raw assets. We're also finding them, we're organizing them, and then we're getting them all ready to put them on this timeline here. Now, if there is an asset that we want to find really quickly, I want you to notice this search bar up here. This is like, you know, your search engine within Premiere. So I know I have a shot in here called Scrambling, and look, I don't even have to type in the whole name, and Premiere has got it for me. I could type in video, and it's going to show me all the video files. I could type in 1080 or MP3 or just any attribute that you can think of. You can type it in here, and then Premiere's got your back, and it's going to find it. Okay, the other thing I want you to know about this folder, or about this panel here, the project panel, you'll see that if I expand some of these bins here of footage and I drag this panel out, I have got basically a spreadsheet of all of the metadata about these files, okay? And so just like any other spreadsheet, I can drag these columns around. I can click them to sort them. I can add more columns here if I want. And when I tell you that Premiere is going to give you options, y'all, I am not playing, okay? But we don't need to use all those. We can keep things simple. So that's what we're going to do. And now I messed up my workspace here, so let me just get things back in order. Okay. Now, let me tell you a little bit. We're going to trim up these clips in a little bit and just start making our project. But before we do that, I want to show you around this interface so that you don't get lost, okay? So like I said, this is where we're going to be prepping footage. The other panel that we're going to be preparing our footage is the source panel here. So these are our source clips, our source footage, right? And when we double click one of those, we can play it over. Oh, that's an unfortunate frame, y'all. Okay, we can play it over here in the source panel, okay? And we can also hear the audio with it. Tip number one. Okay, now, of course, down here, we've got a timeline panel. And so, you know, we're just going to add stuff from our project panel down here. We can also add stuff from the source panel, and we're going to go through all that in a second. But I just want to show you the basic situation here. You'll see that as I'm dragging this playhead through this timeline, it is playing up here in this panel called the program panel. So you can think like this is the TV program that you are creating within Premiere. So it shows up in the program panel. Okay. And now the last thing I want to show you before we jump into making this project is I want you to be able to get around this timeline so that you're not lost. Okay, so to play this timeline, we can go over here and we can press this play button. We can press. Let me actually get some shots that don't have audio to make this a little less weird. Okay, so we can play things here by pressing this play button here, right? We could also, just like on YouTube, you can press the space bar to start and stop. Okay, if we want to move sideways, obviously we can drag this playhead here. We can also use this scroll bar down here. My favorite way to get around, though, is to use this tool over here called the hand tool, which you can get to by pressing the H key. And that is just going to let me grab my way around, which I like to do super fast. Okay. Now, if we've got a tool and then we want to get back to our pointer tool, the selection tool, we can just press the V key. And I always think like that V looks like an upside down pointer, you know, it's pointy like that arrow. And so that's how I remember that. Okay. And then what else do I want to tell you? Okay. To move between these clips down here on the timeline, you can press the down arrow and the no, I'm going backwards. This is the down arrow and this is the up arrow, and that'll send you between clips. Okay. Now, if I want to go frame by frame, then I'll press the, okay, we haven't started the action here. I'll press the right arrow or the left arrow to go backwards. All right. And then the last thing to get around is you'll see that I'm zooming in and I'm zooming out a lot, right? You're going to do that a lot. To do that, you can use this bar down here. But I think it's faster to use shortcut keys. And so you can zoom in by pressing the plus key or the equal key on your timeline. And then you can zoom out by pressing the minus key. Okay? All right. So how's everybody doing? Let me just check in real fast. This is so meta. That's what my brother says. Hi, David. Okay. So now that we have shown you a little bit around the interface and I've shown you how to get around, we're going to start making this project the right way, okay? Because we don't want to just be dragging any old clip onto our timeline, right? We want to make sure that we're trimming out only the best parts, the best excerpts, and then, then we'll be able to see our story and know what we're creating, okay? So if you are following along, I want you to go over to this first bin of footage here called intro shots, okay? What you're going to do with that is you're going to double click it. And then I want you to notice it opened up in a new tab in this project panel. And so we can have tabs in the project panel, multiple tabs, just like if you're in Chrome or Finder or anything, okay? Then down here at the bottom left, I want you to see that we've got view options. So I can put this in icon view to see previews. I can also put this in freeform view here. What that's going to do is let me do whatever I want to, but that's a little messy for me. So I'm going to go back to icon view. Then we have a slider down here where we can adjust the size. And then we can sort by any attribute that we want. Well, in our case, we're just going to pick name, okay? Okay, let me find my place in my script. All right, so now we're going to start trimming some excerpts here. Where am I? Okay, here we go. So let's go to the first shot, and let me show you. This is so easy in Premiere. I love this. Okay, so I'm just going to hover my mouse from left to right, and I'm getting a preview. So I don't even have to click, and I can see what's going on with this shot here. And I can see, okay, I'm kind of getting my camera ready, and now I am moving. Okay, so I want this shot to start right here before I start moving. And so that is where I want the shot to come in. That is also known as the endpoint. And to set that, I am going to press the I key. Oh, make sure you have the project panel selected when you do this. You're going to select the I key, and then you'll notice that everything before that endpoint has now been trimmed off. Now I can do the same thing when I want the shot to stop or when I want it to go out. That is known as the out point. So I'm going to press the O key to set that. All right. Now you'll notice down here, if I accidentally if I had the timeline panel selected and I, pressed I and O, that's going to select a certain excerpt of your timeline. So if you did that and you're like, oh no, I already broke things, don't worry. We can just clear that in and out by right clicking here and doing that. Okay. So now crisis averted. And now that we have this shot trimmed up and we can see it's just this little blue part, we can just drag it to our timeline and voila. So now you'll see only that trimmed excerpt is on our timeline, but it's not permanent. If we change our mind, we can do that. Okay. I also want you to notice down here, we've got our video on top, we've got our audio on the bottom, and if I drag a track up, then I'm going to get previews. I could also just double click here, and that will maximize or minimize a track, but I'm going to maximize because I want to see those previews so I know what I'm working with. All right, now I'm going to press the down arrow and go right here to our next spot on the timeline, and let's keep trimming up. So make sure that you have the project panel selected here. I'm going to zoom in, and then I'm going to hover. I'm going to press the I key and the O key, trim out my excerpt, and now this time, instead of dragging all the way to the timeline, because that was a long journey, I don't want to do that every time, I'm going to go back here, select my project panel, and I am going to press the comma key. The comma key is going to insert whatever clips over here on the timeline wherever the playhead is. So what that means is that if I have a clip here, I put my playhead right in the middle of it, and then I press the comma key, that clip's going to get split in two because this is getting inserted. We're going to undo that though, because that's weird, and we're going to insert this here. Okay, so we're going to go back to the project panel here. We're going to do the same thing. It's hover, I, O, click, and then comma to insert on your timeline. So that is the basic sequence here that we're doing when we're trimming clips. And so you can see, I know that, I am probably throwing like a lot of shortcuts at you, and I know it can be frustrating, like when you're trying to learn a piece of software in the beginning to learn shortcuts. But I promise you, if you just spend a little bit of time, investing in trying to learn these, and it doesn't take much time, it becomes like muscle memory really fast, but it's going to make editing exponentially faster, right? I do also want to let you know that I made an entire rap song and shot a music video about this exact trimming sequence. I can't promise you it's going to be the best song that you have ever heard. Okay, I ain't trying to be a rapper, but I am trying to help you remember these shortcuts, and so that will definitely help you do that. Also, I have a cheat sheet. I'm going to be talking about a bunch of shortcuts throughout this webinar, and so I have a cheat sheet because, like I said, I know it can be a lot where there's so many shortcuts. It's endless in Premiere with the efficiency you can gain, but these are the ones that I think are worth memorizing first. And so if you're interested in that, this is linked in the recap guide, and you can check that out. Okay. Now let's go back to our screen here. How's everybody doing? We're doing okay? Why won't it let me drag to my timeline? I am not sure, but you want to make sure that you have this V1 clicked so that it's blue, and then that should let you drag it. You're basically telling Premiere, hey, I'm targeting this track, or and this one too, sorry, this V1. You can make sure that that turns blue, and that should let you drag stuff to your timeline. Okay. Now, all right, so now besides the project panel, when we're trimming clips, the other place that we can trim clips and get them ready before we drag them to our timeline is the source panel, okay? So when we double click this, again, this is going to, like a piece of source footage, it's going to open up bigger in the source panel, and we can hear it with audio if it has audio. Now to play footage here, we can do that by pressing this play button down here. We can also press the space bar, just like on the timeline. But there is another way to preview footage that is super, super fast. So you know how you can watch a video in double speed in YouTube? And that's going, if you're trying to learn something, you're gonna get through content so much faster. And the same is true in Premiere. If you wanna preview and see what a footage is about, then if you can watch it in double, triple, quadruple speed, right? That's going to save you time. Now, in Premiere, when you watch something and fast forward, that is called shuttling. If you think about going from point A to point B, you can get there by walking, but you're gonna get there much faster if you took a shuttle bus, right? And so there's a shortcut key for shuttling in Premiere, but I have reassigned it from the default to be something different. And that's because any of these shortcut keys that I am pressing on a regular basis, I want them under my left hand because I am right-handed. And so I want my right hand to stay on the mouse as much as possible so that, my left hand can do all the work and then I can edit like a dang machine. And so I'm going to show you how I customize this if you're interested. Okay, so in Premiere, you can customize just about any command with a shortcut. And to do that, you're going to go up to this Premiere Pro window, and then you're going to go to Keyboard Shortcuts. And then you're going to get this menu that's kind of showing you all of the keyboard shortcuts in Premiere, and you can click on a key and see what shortcuts you've assigned, and try to figure things out. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to the search bar here, and we're going to search for shuttle. And then this command here, shuttle right, this is what is going to take us right on our timeline. So that's our fast forward command. I have X'd out the key that was originally there because I think it was under my right hand, and I made it F because that makes me think of fast forward, right? So you can do the same if you're interested or not if you don't want to. Okay, and then now let me show you how this works. Now I'm just going to give a little disclaimer. We are live streaming, so I don't know if this fast forward is going to work or break my computer's processor, but we will find out. Okay, so now if I press F once, it's going to go at normal speed. If I press it again, it's going in fast forward at like double speed. And then I can do this on the timeline too. If I pressed it like 3 times, it's going to go triple speed. So every time you press F, you're going faster and faster up to like, I guess how much of a beast your computer is, how much it can handle, okay? So that is the shuttling shortcut. Okay, the other things we can do up here in this project or this source panel here when we're previewing footage is we can also, press I to set an in point, O to set an out point. We can drag it to the timeline, but we can also use the comma key. And then I want you to notice when we drag it, we're just grabbing from that preview screen up there anywhere and dragging to the timeline. And then also we have these little icons here, right? So if we only wanted to add the video from a clip, we could drag from that, or we only wanted to drag the audio. This one doesn't have any audio, but we could drag from that. And then you will have noticed there was this little pop-up that came here, and that's because Premiere will automatically save your project every 15 minutes, or you can go into the preferences and change that just to make sure that you haven't been working for hours doing this wonderful, making this masterpiece, and then, maybe the power goes out and you lose it, okay? So it's got your back in that regard. Okay. Now, just want to check in and see everybody's doing okay. It's been a long week. Wrong panel open. Okay, good. But hopefully everybody is checking, is catching up. Okay, so now that I've shown you a little bit about how to trim, we're going to fast forward in this edit a little bit. So I want you, if you have these sample clips, I just want you to delete everything on your timeline, okay? And then press the up arrow so that you go to the beginning of it. We're going to close this panel here of intro shots. So we're going to go to that hamburger menu and go to close panel. And then now, if you're following along, I want you to go to the second bin here called intro shots edited. So that's where I've already edited everything for you. We're just going to drag that entire bin onto the timeline, and voila, here we have trimmed up all these intro shots, okay? So these intro shots are going to be the beginning of our video where we're just like doing these catchy, fast visuals to get people's attention and to hopefully make their thumb stop. And then at the very end here, I've got this shot of my partner. It's like dramatic, he's catching this case, and this is where I want to come in and start talking and introducing the topic of the video. So now we're going to edit some speaking shots, okay? So if you're following along, go ahead and grab folder number 3, speaking shots, and then we're just going to drag that entire folder onto the timeline. Now, these shots are not trimmed up, and I know you're like, Mary, you told us not to drag uncut footage onto the timeline, but the reason I'm doing this is because whenever I am editing audio, like clips with audio, I think it's so much easier to edit on the timeline, and that is because we have these visual waveforms here of our audio that help me know exactly where to cut, okay? Now, if you don't see these waveforms on your timeline, what I want you to do is go to this wrench here at the top left. This is called Timeline Display Settings. And then you're going to go up and you're going to make sure that where it says Show Audio Waveform, make sure that is checked, okay? Okay, now let's say that you're like, okay, cool, Mary, I see the waveforms. I don't know what they mean. Don't worry, it's very easy. So when a waveform is flat here, that means I'm not talking. There's no sound, okay? But when a waveform has these nice up and downs like this, these peaks and valleys, that means that's when I'm talking. Let's talk about video gear. And then right here, I'm actually not going to play it in case you have headphones on, but these spikes here are where I'm clapping. Now, why am I clapping while I'm delivering these lines? Well, I have a little trick to make it really easy to edit audio, and that is that whenever I mess up a line, I will clap once, and then when I nail a line, I will clap twice. And so that makes it really easy for me to find these double spikes and to know where my good take is. So I know that, you know, right here I was mumbling, but like from here to here, that's my good take, okay? So to trim that up, you know, of course, we'll drag over here. I could just drag this in. I could drag this in. Then I could click and delete these gaps here, but that was a lot of work, right? I don't want to be clicking and deleting these gaps every time, okay? So there is a better way to do this that is much faster. All right, so I'm going to show you a tool over here. And if there's one tool that you remember from this entire webinar, I want you to remember this one. This is the Ripple Edit tool, okay? The shortcut for the Ripple Edit tool is B. And that's because this tool is going to put you in beast mode, okay? It's going to really increase your efficiency. And so we're going to select that tool, all right? We're going to go back over here to our timeline, all right? And you will notice that now when I drag this clip in, on this side, there's no gap, right? There's nothing to delete. And so that makes things really easy. The only downside to this Ripple Edit tool is that I gotta drag my mouse a lot, okay? And so over time, you know, if you're doing a few hours of editing, my shoulder gets tired. And so if I can avoid that dragging, I would love to, all right? And so I'm gonna show you my absolute favorite way to trim. And I'm gonna pull up a little example that will help you understand a little bit better. And that is by using these two keys here, the Q and the W key, which are conveniently located right under my left hand, which I love. Okay, so the way these shortcut keys work, is like, let's say you have a clip on your timeline, right? And you want to trim, you put your playhead right here because you want to trim off everything on the clip before the playhead. You're just going to press the Q key and bam, it's gone. And there's not going to be any gap to delete. Same thing on the other side. You just, let's say you want to trim everything off after the playhead. Then you're going to press the W key and bam, it's trimmed and there's no gap. So these are super, super efficient. And so now let's go back to Premiere and I'll show you how these work. I'm going to show you how fast these are, y'all. I'm just going to delete everything we got here and then we're going to start over. And now we're going to trim with these keys. So I'm going to put my playhead here since I know I don't want anything before that. I'm going to press the Q key. Then I'm going to put my playhead here since I know, you know, this is my good take and I've stopped talking. Okay, hand tool with the H key. Then I'm going to press Q to trim off everything before the playhead, W everything afterwards. Right here, we can see I messed up this line, and so I want to go here, Q, W, mess up, nailed it, Q, W. That was so fast. I'm done trimming these speaking clips. I don't have to listen to all those bad takes where I mess things up because that wastes my time and it's also a little bit traumatic. And so, yeah, this is just really efficient. It makes me happy. Okay, so there are a couple more tools that I want to show you before we bounce off of this timeline here. And let me see here. Okay, yeah, so this tool right here in the toolbar, this is the razor tool, okay? It's also known as the cut tool, so you get to that by pressing the C key. And of course, what this is gonna do, I'm gonna press C here, and this is just gonna cut my clips, right? If you need to split a clip, let's say you have something great at the beginning and great at the end, right? Okay, and then the last thing I want you to notice is, let's say down here on the timeline that I wanna delete this clip. I could delete it, but then I have this gap that I have to delete, okay? So we don't wanna do that. So instead, what we could do is we could right-click it, and then we could go to Ripple Delete, and that is going to delete that clip and then ripple everything down on the timeline so that there's no gap. But if we want to be most efficient, of course, we don't want to be right-clicking and going into this menu every single time, right? And so I have set a shortcut key for Ripple Delete that is really efficient and easy to remember. And of course, I've customized it to be under my left hand. So I've gone up here to the Premiere Pro window, back to our keyboard shortcuts menu here. Okay. And now I'm going to search for that command, which is Ripple Delete. And I've set that to the X key. So I've just X'd out whatever was there, and then I put X. And you can too if you want to. Then we're going to click OK. And now I can just press that X key and then delete a clip. And yeah, no gap, really fast. Okay. So I know that by this point, we've been over a lot. I've thrown a lot of shortcuts at you. And so I just want to do a lightning fast little review here. So to trim clips, you're hovering, you're pressing I, O for in and out point, and then you're clicking and pressing comma to insert, okay? Then you press the plus minus keys to zoom in and out, up, down to go between clips, FF to fast forward, H to get that hand tool to grab your way around, B for beast mode for the ripple edit tool. That's going to drag the ins and outs with no gaps. C for the cut or the razor tool. V to get back to that pointy pointer selection tool. And then Q and W to trim the front and the end of a clip off before and after the playhead. And then X to ripple delete a clip with no gaps, okay? And again, I've got that shortcut cheat sheet. It's got everything that I just mentioned and then a few more if you're interested, because I know it can be a lot. Okay. So how are we doing? We doing okay? Cool. All right, so at this point, I just want to congratulate you because you're basically like halfway to being an expert in Premiere because these are a lot of the fundamentals that you need to know to really get around quickly. And so, if you are excited about what you have learned so far, and if you're excited about how much more you're going to learn, then I want you to let me know how hype you are. I want you to blow up that chat box with some celebration emojis. So I want to see like some balloon emojis and some party hats and some high five emojis, and let me know that you're hype for the rest of the webinar because we have got so much more to learn. Okay, so we're going to go back to the screen here. Now, let's clean up these speaking shots that we've got here. We're going to delete everything on the timeline because we kind of made a hot mess there trying to learn everything. And now I'm going to go over here. If you're following along, go back to your project panel. And I want you to grab this fourth bin here that's called Speaking Shots Edited. So that's got everything trimmed up just how we want. And we're going to just drag that over to the timeline. Okay, cool. Now, what I want to do that we've got, now that we have all these speaking shots here on the timeline, what I want to do is I'm talking for a long time, right? And so I want to bring in some visuals and I want to cover up these gaps here so I don't have jump cuts. And I also want to add a few effects to them. So that's what we're going to do. So if you're following along, go to this final bin here that's called Final Shots. Double click that so that it opens up in a new tab here. And then go to the bottom and switch it to icon view. And then I'm going to make these a little bigger so we can see what's going on. Okay, now I'm going to play this first line on the timeline so that you can see, we can kind of remind ourselves what it's about. Actually, we never even listened to it because we didn't have to because we were looking at our waveforms when we were cutting this. So let's hear what I'm talking about. Let's talk about video gear because it can get out of control real quick. Okay, so when I say it can get out of control real quick, I want to show some out of control gear. And so I'm going to go to this first shot here called Gear Falling. And look at this, we got some out of control gear that's going everywhere. Okay, so I want the shot to play just like this at normal speed, and then I'm going to duplicate it and I'm going to have it go at double speed backward. All right, so what I'm going to do is zoom in on this timeline to the second part of this clip where I say it can get out of control real quick, and I'm just going to drag this clip right on to this second track, and you'll notice that this higher track, any clip that's on a higher track is going to cover up a lower track. And since this clip is like the exact same size as this clip that's on track one, we can't see the clip on track one at all. And so that's, what I'll normally do is I'll just put my speaking clips on track one and then I'll sprinkle in visuals on track two. Okay, so now that we have this clip here, we want to duplicate it. And a really fast way to do that is to hold down the Option key if you're on a Mac or the Alt key if you're on Windows. You're going to keep pressing that key down, and then you're going to drag out to the right, and that's going to duplicate the clip. So, beautiful. Now, to reverse this clip and speed it up, we're going to right-click, and then we're going to go over here to Speed Duration, okay? So you're going to check that, and then you're going to get a pop-up that's come up on my other monitor here, so I'll drag this over. And this is pretty self-explanatory, so we're just going to increase the speed to 200%, and then I'm going to check this reverse box. Cool. And now you'll see down here, our clip has gotten shorter. I'll just scoot this over so that it lines up because now it's 200% is faster. So now let's play that back and see what it looks like. Let's talk about video gear because it can get out of control real quick. Love it. Yes, we are so good. Okay, so now I'm going to play the next line and we'll see what it's about. The last thing you need when you're on a deadline is to be scrambling around trying to find some piece of gear. Okay, so when I say scrambling around, trying to find some piece of gear, I have a few shots for that. So I have this shot where we're scrambling around and this shot where Miles, my partner, is trying to find a piece of gear. So we're just going to shift click both of those clips here in the project panel, and then we're going to drag them onto track 2 where I say scrambling around. Cool. Now after that, I'm going to press the H key for my hand tool and scoot over, and the down arrow to get right in between these clips. After that, I want to insert a couple shots of my partner and I speaking that kind of go along with this line. So I'll play those.
How does this stuff just disappear?
Like, where does it even go? Cool. Okay, so now we're just going to shift click again to select both of those. And of course, to insert those on our timeline, I could press our shortcut key for inserting, which is the comma key, and you'll see they showed up. The other thing I could do is I could hold down the command key if you're on Mac or the control key if you're on Windows, and then I could drag them over. And you'll see we have these little triangles there, and that is saying, you know, everything's going to go to the right if you put these in. It's going to get inserted. Okay, so now we'll play that next line back. The last thing you need when you're on a deadline is to be scrambling around trying to find some piece of gear.
How does this stuff just disappear?
Like, where does it even go? So cute. Am I right? Okay. So this next line, I am introducing the topic of the video, but I want to skip to this last line, okay? Because right after that, I'm going into like the first tip that I'm going to give for organizing gear. Oops. Tip number 1 is to use these wall hangers for your grip equipment. Okay, so when I say that, it's a little ambiguous, so I want to show the wall hangers that I'm talking about, okay? So I have a clip number 6 if you're following along, of these wall hangers here, and I'm just going to drag that to track 2. Okay, now I don't really want this clip to be covering me up the whole time. I want to do a split screen, so I want me on one side and then these, you know, these wall hangers that I'm talking about on the other. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to double click in this program panel. Okay, when I did that, when I double clicked on this clip, you'll see I have this little frame around the clip, and that frame is going to let me transform where I can scale, I can rotate, I can move this clip around. So it's super easy, just like, you know, you're designing in Photoshop or something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this over to the right. Now I'm going to hold down the shift key, and then whatever direction I start dragging this is going to stay on that axis. So if I hold down the shift key and go, nope, I think you start dragging first and then you press down the shift key, and now it's only going to go horizontally, which is nice. That's what I want. I'm going to scoot it over to this right side so that it's on the right side. And then I'm going to do the same for this other clip, but on the left side. So I'm going to scoot me over here. Okay, so that's good, but it ain't going to work. Obviously, you know, we need to crop this clip in order for this to look right. So to do that, we're going to need to add a crop effect. Okay, and to add a crop effect, we're going to need another panel that we don't have up here. So we're going to go to the window menu here, and then I want you to make sure that the effects panel is checked here. Okay, when we check that, the effects panel is going to come up. And now this is like a goodie bag where you can find all sorts of effects that you can add to your clips. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm just going to search for the crop effect. Now I have some crop presets myself, so you're not going to see those, but we're going to go down to the default crop effect here that's in the transform bin. So you're going to find that, and then we're going to drag it onto this clip, and it's been added, and nothing's cropped. So what are we going to do? So to adjust this crop effect, to control the settings for this crop effect, we need another panel for that. So this is just where we find the effects, but to control the settings, we're going to go back up to the window menu, and then we're going to go to Effect Controls, and we're going to check that. When we check that, here we can zoom in, and you'll see any effects that we've added to this clip are going to get added to this Effect Controls panel. All right, and then we've got all the settings that we can adjust for this crop effect. It's pretty cool because I can just click on it, and then I can adjust right here in the program panel. All right, so that looks good. Let's play this back and see what it looks like. Tip number 1 is to use these wall hangers for your grip equipment. Love it, except I feel like you need to go over just a little bit, right? Cute. Okay, awesome. We have added the visuals for our video. I'm thinking this is looking really good. And so now what we want to do, let me make sure what we want to do. Okay, we want to move on to color. All right, so let's talk about color adjustments. Everybody doing okay? Got any questions? Cool. Okay. So, I want to use, wait, did you say I want to use 0.75 speed for the webinar? Oh, am I going? Oh no, are y'all falling behind? I can go a little more slowly, okay? So, yeah, I don't want y'all to be lost, okay? So if I'm going too fast, let me slow down for the rest so that y'all can hopefully catch up, okay? So what we're going to do next is we're going to do some color adjustments, okay? So to adjust the color, we're going to need another panel, and that is up here in the window menu. That's where we find our panels, okay? And then we're going to select this panel here that's called Lumetri Color, okay? So we're going to check that, and then it has come up over here. All right. The way this panel works, first I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit. We've got different sections, right, that we can expand and collapse, and that's where we're going to find settings to adjust the color, okay? The way these sections work is you kind of want to start up top and then work your way to the bottom. These top sections are pretty easy to use. You should see some settings that look like what you find on Instagram. And then as we get down, we're going to get some really sophisticated advanced controls that are going to give you really precise ways to adjust your color, but you know, you can always learn those later. If you want to just stay up in these first two tabs, you've got lots of options to adjust, and you could just live your best life up here, okay? So the way this panel works is whatever clip you've got selected on your timeline, that is the clip that's going to be affected whenever you adjust these color settings here, all right? We can also double click a slider, and then it'll reset it. Now, since I'm doing color, I don't want myself to be so tiny over here. I actually really want to get a nice big view here and see what I am doing. So I'm just going to drag this here. Okay, I am thinking that this clip looks a little flat and a little dull, and so we are going to make it pop. So why don't I just adjust a few things over here. I'll adjust the temperature in the tint, and then maybe I'll raise the highlights a little bit, and then maybe I will darken the shadows and just give this a little bit of contrast. Okay, so now another thing that I could have done is I could have pressed this auto button down here, and that's where Premiere is going to automatically adjust the color of your shot, and sometimes it nails it. I mean, that looks pretty good, but it might be a little bright, and so you can do that. You could try it. If it doesn't look the way you want, you can also press this reset button over here. Okay, so I'm going to leave that for now because I am going to do something in this creative tab now that's also going to jazz this up. This creative tab here is where we're basically adding Instagram filters, but they're called creative looks here in Premiere. We can preview those looks by right-clicking and then left-clicking and then seeing, you know, how this look is going to appear. This is how the look will appear at 100% intensity, but we can adjust it in a second, okay? So we're going to right-click and we're going to go to this SL Big LDR, and that's the effect that we're going to pick, all right? So to apply this effect, all I need to do is double click here and look, it's been applied, but it is a little intense. And so I'm just going to drop that intensity down here to about 35%. And now I can check this checkbox here. I can turn it off, and here's the before. And then I can check it again, and here's the after, and I am popping, y'all. So this is looking good. Okay, so if I want to apply this color to the rest of my timeline, let's say, okay, this looks good. I want every other clip to look like this. Obviously, I want to apply this to the other clips where I'm speaking, right? I could do that. It's really easy, but I am going to show you, first of all, you'll notice that whenever this Lumetri color panel is open and I am going between my clips, they're getting automatically selected on the timeline. And that is designed to make color easy for you. Premiere is trying to help you out so that you don't have to select a clip every time to adjust the settings. And, you know, if you're working on a Hollywood film and you got a bazillion-dollar budget, you're going to have a team of colorists who are going to give custom settings to every single clip. So that's a perfect world. But let's say we're on, you know, a deadline. We're in a hurry. So we just want to apply this color effect that we did to this clip to the entire timeline so that it has a consistent look. So to do that, it's really easy. We're going to select this clip that we've applied our color settings to. Then we're going to go up to the Lumetri color panel here, to this hamburger menu, and then we're going to go to Save Preset, okay? When we do that, we're going to get a little pop-up menu where Premiere is asking us, yo, what do you want to name this preset? So let's call this Gear Organization Color, right? These are our color settings, and we'll click OK. Cool. Now, where do we find this preset that we just saved? Well, we're going to go over to the Effects panel that we were in before, and that's where we're going to find it. You know, where we search for the crop effect? Now we can just type in, what do we call this? Gear, oh, it was right there, Gear Organization Color. So here's the preset that we just saved. Okay, and just like we did with our crop effect before, where we dragged and dropped it on the clip, we can do that here. So I'm just going to select all of our video clips here. And then I'm going to press the shift key and I'm going to deselect that one clip that has already got the color, because I don't want to double this up and have me look too poppin'. And so now I'm going to drag this onto all of the rest of my clips, and you'll see everything matches and looks consistent. And now, guys, we are done with color. And so that was really, really fast. Okay, so now that we're done with color, what I want to do is I want to add some titles and some graphics to this video. If everybody's doing all right. All right, sweet. You want it for your gaming channel? Yes, I would love. Oh, I'm going to check you out later. All right. Sweet, 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 sweet. Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to move on to titles and graphics. Now, the thing about titles and graphics, since I am a designer at heart, I feel like they could just really polish up a video and make it look really fancy, right? And so I'm going to show you a bunch of ways to do that. So first of all, we're going to want another panel in Premiere that is going to help us with graphics. So of course, we're going to go up here to the window menu, and then we're going to go to Essential Graphics, and we're going to check that. And by the way, you know, we're having to go up into this window menu to grab our panels every time. But once you set up a workspace, like if you tell Premiere, hey, this is how I want my assembly workspace set up, it should remember that every time, which is really convenient. Okay, so let's take a look at this panel over here. We've got two tabs here, okay? The Browse tab and the Edit tab. The Browse tab is where we're going to see all these templates that we can put on our timeline, all right? And this is a bank of my templates that I use in a lot of my projects. We also can find new templates over in Adobe Stock that we can download, and there's a huge marketplace of these templates. These templates usually have motion graphics in them, which is really awesome because, you know, that looks super fancy, but you don't have to have those skills, motion graphic skills. You don't have to know anything about that to edit these templates really easily and make it look like you have those skills when you put these things in your videos, right? Okay, so another thing is those motion graphic templates, you'll also hear them called MOGRTs, okay? Motion, graphic, templates, T. It's a really weird acronym. All right, so then in this Edit tab here, this is where we're going to make graphics and titles from scratch, and they can be super simple, or they can get really fancy and have all the motion graphics, and you know, you can make your own templates here, blah, blah, blah. Possibilities are endless. So first I'm going to start out by making a simple title in this Edit tab, okay? So since this is an intro for a video that we're going to put on YouTube, what I want to do with this intro is I want to put it on social media so that it's like, here's a little taste, but you can watch the rest on YouTube. So I need to leave my YouTube details at the end of this video. So let's make a little simple title with those details about the channel, okay? To do that, we're going to go down here to this Type tool in the Tools panel, okay? It looks like a T, and we're going to click on that, and then up in the Program panel, we're going to click, and then we're just going to start typing, and now we've got a title, right? Now, to edit this title and make it look a little more modern, we've got all these settings down here, okay? So why don't I just change the font to something a little more my style, and we'll say watch more at, okay? Now I am going to go back down here in the Tools panel, and I grab my Selection tool, that pointer tool again, and now I can scale this, I can move this, I can do whatever I want, okay? Now, of course, we're going to need another title. And the cool thing is you'll have noticed that when I made this title and I clicked up there with the Type tool, then down here on the timeline, Premiere has added a clip. It's automatically made that for us. Now this right here is a graphics clip. What I love about graphics clips is that we can have multiple layers inside this one graphics clip, right? So we can have multiple titles, we can have multiple, like, you know, shapes, whatever we want. We can import images as layers, and they'll all live inside this graphics clip and keep your timeline really, really clean. So of course, we want to add another title here. And to do that, I'm going to go up into this Edit tab in the Essential Graphics panel. And I'm going to click this menu here that looks like a new page, right? This is where we create a new layer or a new item in this clip. And so we're going to click that, and then I'm going to go to Text. That's going to create a new text layer here. And I can move that around. And now I'll just put youtube.com/Mary Betsy. All right, and then let me just adjust a few things. We'll make that a little bolder. And now shift click and cool, cute. Okay, so that's how you make a simple title in Premiere. Super easy. You know, we could, like I said, get really, really fancy with this. So, you know, I could add another rectangle layer, a shape layer. I could, you know, move it around, change the color. I can also go up here and you'll notice this layer pane here, and I can move these layers around. Okay, when I do that, you'll see, like if I move this shape to the bottom, then it goes below everything else, right? And whenever I click on a layer here, I'm going to get settings that I can adjust down here in the Essential Graphics panel. And it's different based on whatever type of layer it is. So we've got so many possibilities there, but for now, I am thinking this looks cute, okay? So now we're going to jump out of this Edit tab. We're going to move on over to this Browse tab where we have those fancy motion graphics because I want to add one of these, okay? So I want you to notice, first you're going to click the Browse tab, and then you're going to make sure that Adobe stock is checked, and then, or selected. Then we're going to go over to this beautiful free box. Let's say we're on a budget for this video, and we're going to check that. Then I want you in the search bar to type in retro because I found a Mogurt, a motion graphic template that I love that was retro. And it's this cat here because I'm really feeling drawn to this cat spiritually. So we're going to add this to our timeline. So of course we could drag and drop it, but first let's decide where we want this to go. So I am thinking that before I introduce this first tip that I'm giving in this video, I want to have like a little section divider that has motion graphics and titles that says, hey, this is what this is about. Okay, so I'm going to press the up arrow to get right in between these two shots right before I introduce that tip. And now if I want to drag this to my timeline and insert it, I'm going to hold down the Command key if I'm on Mac and the Control key if I'm on Windows. I'm going to hold that down while I drag, and then I'm going to see those little right triangles, and then I'm going to release, and you'll see that it shifted everything down, and it's inserting this. And it might take a second to load. Motion graphics are really fancy clips, so give it a minute, but now it's shown up. Now, our cat has disappeared, unfortunately, but that is because we're going to replace it with our own media. But you'll see, look at this. Look at this animation. This is so fancy. All right, so let's adjust some of the settings for this. You'll see that if I click on this clip, then over here in Essential Graphics, automatically the Edit tab has been selected for us, and this is where we're going to edit the settings. We got all these settings here. Now, the settings here are going to depend on whatever particular Mogurt you have used. So remember, Mogurts, these motion graphic templates are part of a marketplace where you got all sorts of creators creating them, and some creators are going to give you a ton of settings, which I love. I love to control it, but some creators are going to be like, let's just keep it simple because, you know, they just want to keep it simple. So here, first, let's just edit the text here. So we'll go to text 1, and since this is about those grip gear wall hangers, we'll call it grip wall hangers. And now over here, you'll notice grip wall hangers has been replaced here. All right. Now let's replace this media here. We're going to go back to our settings. We're going to go to media replacement. We're going to go to window media. So let's replace the media that's in that window. And now you'll see we have this placeholder here. This last clip here called Mogurt Media, that's what we're going to put there. So I'm just going to drag this clip and drop it straight onto that placeholder. So super simple, and you'll see, you know, that's not even an image, that's like a video that's playing. Beautiful. All right, now let's fix this background here. So we're going to go over here and we're going to go to background controls. And I actually don't think I want an image here. I think I want this to be a solid color. Okay. And that's a little bright though. So let's tone that down. We'll go to color controls, background colors, and then let me select a color here that is a little more muted and subtle. Maybe something like that. Cute. Okay. So now if we're looking at this, he puts it in, and I'm thinking that's where it needs to end. And so to trim off everything after this playhead, that is when we're going to press the W key and shift everything down automatically for us. Beautiful. Okay. So we've got our graphics and titles. Y'all, this is looking so fancy, and I am really hype about this because we got all our visuals in place, we got our speaking clips, we got our color done. And so now that we got everything looking good, I feel like it is time for us to get everything sounding good. So we're going to move on to our audio. Check in real fast. How are we doing? Can I ask a quick question? Maybe you know. Okay. Everybody doing all right? Are there any lags or any issues? Y'all let me know. Okay, so now we're going to move on to, now we're going to move on and we're going to go to audio. Okay, so to edit the audio in our video, just like any other, like when we arrive at a certain stage in our edit, we want to pull up another panel that we need to help us. Okay, so we're going to go to the window menu, and then we're going to go to our essential sound panel. That is the panel that we want for audio. Okay, so make sure you have that checked. Okay, when that comes up, we're going to go over here, and I'm going to have you notice it looks like this essential graphics panel where we have a browse tab and an edit tab. So it's kind of the same situation where in the browse tab is where we're going to browse for new items to add to our template or to our video here. So this is where we can find music and we can sort by all sorts of filters. Now this is part of Adobe stock, but there's no free box here. But if you don't have a membership with them, then you can also get free 10 free songs if you do a trial. So that also is linked in the recap guide if you're interested. You can check that out. Okay. Then in the edit tab, this is where we're going to edit the audio that's already on our timeline and make sure that it sounds good. And so this is where we're going to start. Okay, we're going to go to our timeline. I'm just going to zoom all the way out here, and I'm just going to select all of the audio clips that are on this timeline. All right, when I do that, then some things get activated over in this essential sound panel. All right, so now Premiere is telling us to assign a tag. So what it's doing is like, what kind of audio is this? I want to give you some settings to adjust, but you need to tell me what kind of audio clip this is so I can give you the best settings. And so since I'm speaking in all of these audio clips, we're going to select dialogue. Okay, when we do that, then we've got some different sections that have settings in them. All right, but what I think is like super easy is just to go to this preset menu, and then in the drop down, podcast voice a lot of times sounds really good if you're speaking into a mic. And so I'm just going to pick that, and when I do, look, Premiere is automatically doing some things and it's adjusting the settings for me. Okay, so that's awesome. If I didn't like that, or if I didn't want to use a preset, I could just adjust all these myself or tweak them manually. So this button right here is going to automatically match the loudness between different clips. So maybe you were filming in different locations or with different mics or whatever, and somebody was way louder than the other, then nobody's gonna be grabbing for their headphones or for the remote if the volume suddenly jumps up. Down here, if these are repair filters, so like maybe you had a fan in the background that was like cramping your style and distracting from what you're saying, and then you can check different things here, and you can hover your mouse over this little slider, and then it's kind of telling you, this is, it's giving you these helpful hints about what each of these do. You do want to be careful though, because when you start dragging these way up and getting rid of background noise, then you can kind of sound robotic and not like a human, so just keep that in mind. All right, now, down here at the bottom, this is where we can adjust the clip volume overall, okay? And then, so we can make it lower or higher, and then down at the very bottom, there's a mute box if we want to mute some of our audio, okay? All right, so that's it. Super easy. We just select the clips, tell them it's dialogue, and then I just go to the preset, drop down, and say podcast voice, okay? Now that we have our speaking audio sounding good, we want to go over and add some music, all right? So that's when we're going to go over here, and we're going to go to the Browse tab, okay? Now, like I said, we got all sorts of filters. You can go by genre, mood, whatever. I like hip-hop, so I'm going to type that in. I found this song earlier that I like called Urban Background Hip Hop, and this is one of my favorite features from Premiere, hands down. Okay, I want you to watch what happens when I press this play button, when I try to preview this music. So you'll see that Premiere is automatically playing our timeline when we're previewing this music, so we can see, like, is this vibe gonna work with our visuals, which I love. What you have to do otherwise, if it's not built into Premiere like this, is you have to go to another website, you have to like download some file that has a watermark on it, which is basically somebody being like, stock footage, website, like every 2 seconds to make sure that you don't steal the song. Then you got to import it in Premiere, you got to drag it on your timeline, you got to do that every single time you just want to test and preview a song and see whether it's going to work. And so this is super seamless. So whenever you have this box down here that's checked, that's called timeline sync, then wherever your playhead is on the timeline, it's going to start playing this song that you're previewing. All right, so I thought that sounded great, and it was really vibing with our visuals. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to, like everything else, drag and drop it onto our timeline. And you might be sitting there like, I'm not going to drop this on my timeline. She said it wasn't free. But don't worry, you're not licensing the song yet. Nothing's going to happen because Adobe wants to make sure that you really love the song before you license it. So you can cut this up. You can even export the video with this song. It doesn't have any watermark like that on it. It's not at max quality, but if you need a team member to review this and tell you, I love it, I hate the song, whatever, you can do that. Then you definitely don't want to upload it to somewhere like YouTube or mass distribution platform because we don't want to step on anybody's copyright. We want to license it before we do that. And so if you've, edited the song and you're like, okay, I love it, I'm ready to take the plunge and commit, you can right click here and then you can go to license and formally license this song. But for now, we're not going to do that. We're going to edit it a little bit. So I'm going to zoom in on this timeline. Okay. And you'll see here in this track, if I play it, that the music hasn't really started in the beginning, which we know because it's flat here. So I want this song to come in right when those visuals start. So what I'm going to do is press the C key. Okay, that's going to get me this razor over here, or the cut tool. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm just going to very carefully just cut off everything before, wherever it's quiet. Okay, so I'm just going to delete that and I'm going to scoot this song over so that it starts right there when the music starts. Okay, another thing I want you to notice about this song is, you remember when I was saying like I clap and then you see spikes in the waveform? The same thing happens when you have a song and there's a beat in the song, okay? So whenever I'm like trimming visuals and trying to get them to be cut to the beat, I'm looking for those spikes there to line up with the cuts in my visuals. So you can see spike here, cut here. Spike here, cut here. So I'll play that back so you can see these things are on the beat. Right? Okay. So now this sounds awesome. Like in the beginning here, the music sounds amazing. I'm loving the way this is sounding, but watch what happens or hear what happens when I start talking. Let's talk about video gear because it can get out of... I'm sorry, what? Like, what did I say? I don't know. The music is so loud I can't hear anything. And so what we could do is we could go over to Essential Sound. Okay, we've got this music track selected. We're going to hop over to the Edit tab and let's edit this song. Okay, so the first thing Premiere is going to be like, yeah, what kind of audio clip is this? So I can give you the right settings. We're going to select Music, okay? And so now that we're in this tab, we could go over to this volume down here and we could just lower the volume. All right, so let's do that. Let's talk about video gear because it can get out of... So that sounds way better. But if we go back to the beginning here, it's so quiet. Like, I just don't think anybody's going to get hype about this video when the music's not thumping in the beginning. And so what we really want, I'm going to double click this slider over here to reset it to 0. What we really want is we want the music to stay loud right here at normal volume. But then whenever I am speaking for any of these clips that we mark dialogue, we want the music to be lowered. So we kind of want it to like duck down under those speaking clips whenever they're there. Okay. Premiere makes this so easy, and coming from somebody who like has been editing in this program for a long time and knows how hard it was to do it the manual way before, this ducking feature is amazing. Okay, so we're gonna have that song selected in our timeline, and then we're gonna go over here. Y'all, I meant to switch. I'm covering up the volume slider, my bad. I meant to switch, hop over here. Okay, so you see the volume slider. I'll zoom in real fast so you can see, because I don't know if you've been able to. Here's the volume slider down here at the bottom of this panel and the mute button, right? Okay, so what we're gonna do is, okay, besides this volume slider real fast, I just want you to notice, we can do the same thing with a music clip by using this line here. Okay, there's a line here and we hover over it, it's saying volume level and it's giving us the decibels. Right now it's at 0, so we haven't touched it, but if we drag it up, we can go here. If we drag it up, the decibel get higher and lower, right? Now we're gonna go back to 0 or around 0. So we could also do that. And so that's what Premiere is gonna do when we're auto ducking this song or making the song go lower under our dialogue clip. So we're gonna go over to Essential Sound with that song selected, and we're gonna check this ducking section, and we're gonna expand it, and then we're gonna tell Premiere, I want you to duck this song down against or under any clips that we've marked as dialogue. And then we're going to click this button here at the bottom. And now I want y'all to see what has happened to this volume line. So Premiere has automatically lowered our music. Okay, and it's done it so that it's not abrupt. It's going to gradually fade out and then fade back up to a normal volume. Play this back so you can hear. Let's talk about video gear, and I actually think it fades down a little too soon, so I'm just going to shift click here and slide these dots over. Let's talk about video gear, because beautiful. And the fact that we didn't have to do all this manually is, love it. Okay, so now our music is, like all of our audio is almost done. The last step is obviously, look, we've got all this music here that's just playing and playing and playing, but no visuals, okay? So we want to chop that off. So we're going to zoom in. I'm going to press the plus key on my keyboard to do that. And again, you could also use this bar down here. And then I am going to go back to my razor tool, which I can get to by pressing the C key for cut. Or I can just go over here to this toolbar and grab it. All right, after I do that, I'm just going to cut right here and maybe trim off the rest of the song. Delete. Okay, and now I want to do the same little situation here where this volume is fading nicely up and down, but I want it to fade from here all the way down to 0. So to add my own little dots to this line, I'm going to use one last tool, and that is the pen tool. Okay, I'm going to zoom in on this toolbar here, and you can see here's our pen tool, which we can get to by pressing the P key. And then watch what happens when I hover this pen tool over this line here. When I hovered over this volume line, I get a little plus symbol, and that means I can add a point on this line. So I'm going to click to add a point here. I'm going to click to add another point here. I'm going to drag this down, and now the music is going to go from here down to 0. So we'll play that back. Let's see if I can go right on this beat here and drag this out so that it leaves right on the beat. Beautiful. Love it. Okay, cool. So now our audio is done, and we're going to move on to our last section in a second. Actually, before we do that, though, I kind of want to preview everything back and just like see what we've done here. But I'm going to check in real fast and see how everybody is doing. I know. Oh, Batman, thank you so much. I should. Okay. Yeah, I do forget to drink water. Thank you for the water break. Everybody drink some water. It's good for you. Self-care is the bomb. Okay. What did you say about free music with the subscription? So if you do a trial, then you'll get 10 free songs, which is awesome. Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay, cool. So we're going to move on. We're about to export our video, so this is really exciting. We're getting to a really big moment here. But what we want to do first is just preview this video back and make sure we love it. Now, when we're going to preview this, I want to have like a full theater experience. I don't know about y'all, but I want to make this panel like really big here. Okay, so to do that, I want you to notice that when I hover my mouse up here to the right of the name of this panel, we get these two little boxes, right? And that means it's kind of like one window is popping out, okay? So if we double click this panel here with those two boxes, then come on. It's like we're opening the panel and it's being maximized, okay? And we can do the same thing and minimize it. But we're going to maximize it so we get a theater experience here. We're going to watch everything back and see what we've done. Let's talk about video gear, because it can get out of control real quick. The last thing you need when you're on a deadline is to be scrambling around trying to find some piece of gear.
How does this stuff just disappear?
Like, where does it even go? And so in this video, I'm going to show you 6 ways to keep your video gear organized and your sanity intact. All right, let's go. Tip number 1 is to use these wall hangers for your grip equipment. Yay! Y'all, we are so talented. That was the bomb. Okay, so what I want to show you, I think somebody asked me, how did I get the blue line to just like go where I want? I'm not sure if this is what you're asking, but I did put it to the beginning of the timeline and then to the end. If you press the home and the end keys on your keyboard, so I'm holding down FN and then going to the left and FN to the right, and that jumps you to the very beginning or the end of your timeline, so that can be helpful. if you're getting around. And another quick tip, that was one of my favorite tips to get around the timeline, is you can press Command F if you're on Mac or Control F if you're on Windows, and then you get this beautiful find in timeline box. So let's say you have this wonderful clip, you know the name of it, and it's the beginning of your timeline, and you want to use it again. Then you can just type anything in. So like, what do we have, a scrambling shot before? I'll just, if I spell it right, then Premiere is going to find that, and it's going to hop me right into the place in my timeline where that clip was. And so that can be really helpful as well. Okay. Or like, let's say I have all my speaking shots here, right? So I could type in, I'll show you, I could just type in speaking, and then I could go to find all. Okay. Now all of those speaking clips here have been selected, which is cool. Like, let's say, okay, I want a certain color setting just for those speaking clips. Then now they're all selected, and I could go over to my effects panel and drag my, preset onto them, just them. And so there's endless tools, like I said, that can really make things fast in Premiere. And don't feel bad if you're like, wow, there's a lot. There is a lot. And I've been in this program over 15 years now, and I am still learning new things like every time I sit down to edit. Okay. The cool thing about Premiere too is I feel like you can keep it really simple and really make, just use kind of the stuff that I'm showing you today to make epic videos. But then there's just unlimited possibilities. Like if you want to ramp up one day to making a feature film, for the big box office, then it also can do that too. And so I love that about this application. Okay, so now that we've watched this, obviously, y'all, it was beautiful. Okay, we're not going to lie. And now it's like, it would be cruel for us to like not get this out into the world, okay? Because we need to really blow up the internet with this. So we need to get this out of Premiere. We need to export it so that we can upload it. And so for this last part of this webinar, I want to show you how to do that, okay? So for this video, we're going to be creating two sizes, okay? Because we know like this widescreen, this is going to look great on YouTube. But we also want to put something on social, and y'all know everybody is holding their phones vertically, and so we want to create something that is in square format that takes up a little more room. So how are we going to do that? Well, we want to make a copy of this sequence of clips here. We want to duplicate it in another size, and then we want to make sure that everything fits in that size and is framed right for that size. So this is awesome. Premiere makes this really, really easy. This is a new feature. So we're going to close out this tab here, okay, with final shots. We don't need them anymore. And then what I want you to do, I want you to go up to the search bar in the project panel on the left, and then I want you to type in sequence, okay? When we do that, you're gonna see this asset in the project panel that looks like a little timeline, right? It's got different tracks, it's got a playhead here, and this is a sequence. And if we go up here, and we've got a little preview here, or we should, no, I have to select it first. We've got a little preview here, okay? You're gonna see, it's not just one clip, it's like all the clips, so this whole sequence of clips on our timeline. And so this sequence represents this sequence of clips on our timeline, okay? This sequence was created automatically by Premiere whenever we dragged that first shot over to our timeline, and it just named it Speaking Shots Edited, because that must have been like the first thing that I dragged, okay? So it also just dropped it in the same folder, but we're going to stay organized. So we're going to drag it out of there, and we're going to call this, I don't know what I'm typing, gear org tips. Okay. So, and then maybe we'll make a little bin here for our sequences just to keep everything in order. All right. Now we want to duplicate this and resize it. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click, and then we're going to go down to this beautiful option in the drop down menu that is called auto reframe sequence. Okay. Now, we're going to get a pop-up here, and then I'm going to zoom in and show you what we're looking at. Premiere's made this so easy because we can just select. We can just say, we want a vertical video, we want a horizontal, whatever. We want a square. We can rename this sequence if we want, but like, that's beautiful. Thank you for making this so convenient, Premiere. And then we're going to tell Premiere what the motion in our video looks like. Because y'all, if you have a subject in your video that is moving like from left to right across the frame, and you've got a widescreen video, and then you put them in a square video or a vertical video, Premiere is actually going to act like a camera and track or follow the motion of that subject so that they stay in frame. I know, like computers and automation is amazing. And so to help it do that the best, we are going to tell it whether, we got slow motion or fast motion. Well, we've got these slow gimbal shots, and then a lot of shots where we're just staying still. And so we're going to pick slow motion. And then we're just going to leave this here which sounds really complicated. We don't know about that, so we're going to leave it on the default setting, okay? All right, then we're going to click Create. And then over here, Premiere is, you'll see down here, it's analyzing. It's doing all this work to figure out what it's doing now is reframing everything so that they fit in the frame, okay? Up here in the left, in our project panel, you will notice that another sequence has been created for us. This is a sequence we just made, and we can, drag it out of there and put it in our own little sequences bin if we want to, okay? And then also, it's opened it in the timeline here, okay? So let me just X everything out, and I'm going to show you. Whenever you have a sequence, if you double click it, it's just going to show up in the timeline panel, okay? And a lot of, video editing applications, you just got one video on your timeline. No, we can have multiple sequences up here in Premiere, okay? We can copy and paste between them. We can put them anywhere on this workspace that we want. It's just so flexible. But here, in our case, what we want to do is we want to export. But first, I want to show you what has happened here with this reframing. So I'm going to go to this clip here. I just want to show you, okay? And I'll do it on this timeline too. Nope, I misspelled it. Okay, so I'm going to go to this clip this is our original widescreen video, right? Okay, and you'll see that in this clip of me, I'm on the left side. And normally, let's say you put a widescreen, like a horizontal pic on Instagram, and then it's picking the thumbnail that's going to go on your feed, and it's making it that little, or on your grid, right, the square. It would have chopped me off right, where would it go? Oh, it would be here and here, So I would be over on the left side of that square, maybe even cut off a little bit, right? That's where it normally would have been if we hadn't done auto reframe. But because Premiere automatically reframed that, when it went to square, I am centered and in the middle. And when they first came out with this feature, I was like, auto reframe, okay, you're gonna automatically reframe all my shots? Okay, Premiere. And then I tested it out and I was like, I see you, Premiere. Because especially if you have faces in your shot, it's amazing what it can do. Now, of course, some things are subjective, and computers like Premiere thinks this is the subject of this shot, and I can understand why this art is cute in our office, but I kind of want more of the whole office. And so if you do need to make some adjustments after it's automatically reframed things, you can do that over in the effect controls panel, because the auto reframe is actually an effect. And of course, the effect controls panel is where we adjust the settings and control the settings for our effects. So I'm going to zoom in here, and you'll see we've added that gear organization color effect, that's on there, but we've also got this auto reframe effect. So if we want to adjust what's in frame, we can go to this setting here, reframe offset, and then we'll just slide it from left to right, okay? So I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to slide this so more of the room is in, and that is beautiful. And I could tweak that with other shots if I wanted to, but honestly, like I said, I usually don't have to touch anything because it does such a good job. Okay. Now that we have everything looking good, we got our 2 videos, 2 sizes, let's talk about how to export. So like I said, we have 2 videos here on the timeline. Whatever sequence we've got up here on top is going to be the sequence that gets exported. All right, so we'll just start with our square video, and then we're going to go to the File menu. Then we're going to go down to Export, and then we're going to go to Media. When we do that, we're going to get a settings window. It has all the settings. Oh my goodness. Lots of options here. Don't worry, we're going to make this very simple. Okay, so on the left side, this is where we're telling Premiere what type of, what area of our timeline we want to be exported. So if we wanted to just export like a little part of our timeline, we could drag in these sliders. We can preview what we're exporting right here by dragging this playhead. But in our case, we're going to go down here, and where it says source range, we're going to tell it the range that we want is the entire sequence, because that's our source for this export. Okay, now on the right side, this is where we're telling Premiere what kind of file we want it to export. And Premiere is going to give us so many options, which is awesome. We love options. But if you just want to keep things simple, the TLDR version of this is, let's say you're uploading something on the internet. In that case, the format you want to pick is H.264. The reason is this is what YouTube wants, this is what all the social media platforms want, because this is a file that's going to be pretty small, which is great for downloading and streaming, but it's also going to have a pretty high quality for such a small file size, which is what we love. So H.264 for the format. Then for the preset, we've got a lot of options here, and you'll see Twitter, Vimeo, all this stuff, right? But what I think is the easiest is just go to the very first one that's called Match Source High Bitrate. This is going to like match whatever your settings were for your sequence. Like if you had a square sequence, it's going to say, okay, the size of our exported video is also going to be square, which we want. And then it's also going to have a high bit rate, which means it's going to pack in a lot of bits of data and make your video really high quality, right? So we're going to pick that. And if you forget this, this is in the recap guide, because I know, it's hard to remember everything at once, right? Then of course we can give our video a name and we can tell it where to export. We're going to export it into our dedicated project folder here because we're keeping everything organized. All right, that's it. If we want to tweak more settings, we can do that. We've got a bazillion ones that we can tweak, but this will definitely get the job done. So what we're going to do is we're going to hop down here to this export button. And you will see that if I hover my mouse over this, it says, if I export this now, it's going to export immediately. So that means that, like, if you put in a ton of those fancy Mogurt clips and you added we added all these color effects and all this stuff, right? That means we're going to have to wait. Like, that's going to take a minute to process and make a video from. And then we're going to have to come back and we're going to have to do that for the second video that we want to export in widescreen. So I don't want to sit here and babysit my computer. I have things to do, right? And so instead, we could also hop over to this queue button. And if you're watching this from across the pond, then you know that a queue is like a line where you're waiting until it's your turn, okay? So that is what we're going to do here. We're going to click this queue button down here. Okay, when we do that, we're going to get a pop-up warning from Adobe, and it's like, yo, you remember you had that music in there that's not licensed, so it's not high quality yet, so make sure you don't put it anywhere for public distribution, blah, blah, blah. We know this, and so we're going to just click Queue for now. Okay, when we click Queue here, stuff is happening. What is happening? We don't know. So I want you to notice down here, another Adobe app is going to launch. See, a little dot just came up there, and it's called Adobe Media Encoder. And if you're like, what? I thought this was on Premiere. Like, I don't have this app. You should definitely have this app, because whenever you downloaded Premiere, Media Encoder should have automatically downloaded because they're like partners in crime. All right. So now that this app has launched, you'll see it's right here. And you will see here is this video that we want to export. Gyro dips our square version. Cool. And it has showed up here in a queue, okay? If you don't see this queue, make sure you go up to the window menu here and make sure that queue is checked, okay? All right, so now that this video is here in queue, it's in line, all right? So it's waiting for its turn, and it's gonna be its turn only when you press this play button up here that says start the queue. But we don't wanna do that yet because we have another video to export first from Premiere. So we're gonna go back to Premiere. We're going to do the same thing for our widescreen video here. So I'm going to make sure it's up on top in the timeline. I'm going to go to File, then I'm going to go to Export, and then I'm going to go to Media. It's going to bring our settings window back up. We're going to make sure that the entire sequence is selected. Then we're going to go for the format, which is going to be H.264. Preset is going to be Match Source, High Bitrate. And then we're going to press Q again. We're getting our song warning. All right, that's cool. We're pressing Q again. And now it's also going to be added to the queue or the line of exports, okay? And then when we're ready, we can go over here and click this play button to start the queue, which I am not gonna do because I don't wanna stress out my computer's processor and break this live stream. But anyways, when it does that, we can, chill. We can walk away from the computer. We can go Netflix and chill and just like enjoy ourselves and reward ourselves for doing such an amazing job on this edit. And by the way, I just want to say that y'all really have done an amazing job. You should be proud of yourself for sticking around through this entire webinar because we have covered so much. I know there are a lot of features in Premiere and it can be overwhelming, but I hope that this webinar has shown you they are there not to make your life more complicated, but to really simplify and help you with the video editing process. We've got lots of options. We've got so much flexibility, so much we can customize. We've got shortcuts to make things, exponentially faster. And of course, we've got these nice auto buttons that are going to automate a lot of the grunt work of video editing so that we can just focus on, the fun, creative stuff that we all love. And we can put as much energy into making the stories that we're telling as powerful as possible. So I want to thank you for your attention today. I really hope I wasn't going too fast. Sorry if I was. If you have any questions, I'm going to stick around and try to answer those. But I do want to just remind you that, You can find that recap guide too if you're like, that was way too fast. Any of the things that you want to see, that is at marybetsy.com/premiere-pro, and that goes through all the steps that I've covered. I will also put a link to this webinar on that page too to make it easier. And then also Premiere's site, like Adobe site, has a ton of free tutorials there and little guided courses that you can go through to help you with your skills that are super helpful. So check that out. And also on this channel. And then if you want to learn more from me, obviously you can learn from me on YouTube at /MaryBetsy. And if you want to really get into some advanced skills about Premiere, then you can check out my course that covers all of those. But for now, thank you so much. And I'm going to check in the chat and see if there's any questions that I can answer. But I do think that there's a little lag, so I'll just stick around for another. It's been an amazing overview, first tutorial I've been able to sit through. Oh, yay, so happy to hear that. Awesome. Oh, thank y'all. Wonderful. Oh, y'all are so sweet. This is my very first live stream like this, where I've got so many monitors to juggle and I'm going through a software tutorial. So it means a lot that y'all are here and that y'all have found this helpful. I'm so happy to hear that. Under Essential Graphics, when you use a text template, can you change the duration it's shown? That depends on the exact template, I believe. And yeah, so some of the templates, like you can drag it out and you can change how long the clip is, and then they'll automatically figure out, okay, I need to scoot the outro later. And then some of them are not very flexible. So it kind of depends. I think because a lot of the templates are kind of made for like, you know, a broadcast where they really want to have everything standardized. So it just totally depends. But if you know After Effects, you should be able to edit that MOGRT or that motion graphic template to be more customized if you want. You don't have to render. Yes, you don't have to render. That's correct. You could change the workspaces if you want as you're working. I was staying in the assembly workspace just to make things easier, but you could definitely change those workspaces to bring up different panels. Oh, this would have saved me so much time. Yeah. I'm glad, yeah, the keyboard shortcuts definitely take a lot of time or save you a lot of time. When the blue timeline is in the frame, I can move it around however I want to move it out. There's a shortcut to put it in the frame where the blue line is viewed. You know what I'm going to do is I am going to jump off of here and go through some of your questions and see if I can type some answers because I don't want to bore everybody while I'm just reading this chat. But again, I just want to thank y'all so much for tuning in. And yeah, I'll linger around the chat if that's possible. Or you can hit me up on social media at @GoMaryBetsy with any questions. But I want to thank y'all again, and I hope you found this helpful and appreciate y'all tuning in. All right, bye y'all.